I'm the first person that will tell you I love college football chaos. And I don't hide that any bit. And I say it all the time, especially when I'm talking with my friends and all that. I don't hide that I love college football chaos. But what in the world happened today, man? November 23rd was a wake up call for everyone, I think, in college football. I'm kind of at a loss for words for this one right here for exactly what happened. But all of these upsets just changed everything in the entire landscape of college football. So let's get right on to that and look at this. But for the Buckeyes, and we start there against Indiana today. So the Buckeyes definitely had a hard time moving the ball when they came from their side of the field. Almost every time that they scored, outside of the one punt return, was actually the ball or the possession starting on the Indiana side of the field. And that was not really necessarily a good sign because it actually shows that they were struggling a little bit to move the ball. And some of the turnovers that they had in the beginning, kind of started shifting the momentum towards Indiana. Then Indiana had that muffed punt where the punter just didn't catch the ball, and Ohio State got a turnover on the 5 yard line, was able to put up, their second touchdown on the board. And then from there, obviously the punt return in the second half went back 79 yards. That flipped the entire game. That was kind of the beginning of the end for the game, and you can just kind of see the morale for Indiana definitely kind of started fading, and that could have been really the big problem with all that. So I'm definitely glad to see that Indiana really hanged in there. They showed that they could play defense at least in in the second half. No, that's wrong, in the first half. And the Buckeyes had, like I said, some struggles, man, to move the ball, and that was a little bit worrisome. But to be completely honest, the scoreboard did not tell the story of that game at all. There were some things that Ohio State has to clean up. Now, hopefully, those cleanups are not having to be done because of Michigan, but when you're replaying Oregon, you're going to have to fix those problems. But on defense, they played stoutly, man. They brought the defense. Where was this defense all year? Buckeyes, I don't get it. Jim Knowles, what were you doing all year when you played Oregon? Where was this defense? The issue with Oregon was you let Dylan Gabriel just sit in the pocket and have no pressure. So he was able to pick the defense apart. So seeing that today is very hopeful, especially for a game like the Big Ten Championship. But it's Ohio State, Michigan. It's big game week. It's the game week. So you can't overlook that game no matter what, man. And, just like they tell you at Ohio State, if somebody has to hype you up for that game, you're just not in the right place. Next up, we got to look at Penn State. Penn State goes to visit Minnesota, and they almost laid an egg, man. They had to walk out of there by the skin of their teeth. They only won 26-25. And now walking away for them with this 1 point win won't really change a lot for them. They might slide one or two spots in the voting polls after Tuesday's rankings come out. But outside of that, it doesn't really do too much to them. Because we had four of the five teams from the Big Ten in the top four, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Only one team can remain in the top four for the seeding, and then the others would be anywhere from 5 to 11. So it really wouldn't have mattered for this one anyway. So Penn State is definitely still in the playoff run. Now, they need Ohio State to lose to Michigan so they can play in the Big Ten Championship if they want to have a first round bye. But I don't think that's necessarily going to happen next week. But that's something we got to look out for, though. We got to keep that in mind. Now we got to move on over to the SEC, and what a day. And let's just be honest with ourselves, man. I don't think many people would have picked these games to end up the way that they currently did today, but this is what ended up happening. I don't make it up. So we got to talk about Bama. Bama just went to Oklahoma and got upset. If you're not an Oklahoma fan and you had Oklahoma beating Bama, be honest with yourself. Nobody had Oklahoma outside of the faithful beating Bama, let alone 24-3. It just wasn't going to happen, But this is why we play the game, because they went out on the field and that's exactly what happened. So Bama definitely takes themselves out of contention for the playoffs. And then another upset that we actually get in quadruple overtime is Texas A&M. They go to visit Auburn today, and they had to go to 4 overtimes where, third and fourth overtime is you only get one play, and it's a 2-point conversion, and that's all you got to try to do, whether you succeed or not. And that's exactly how Texas A&M lost today. Once again, so now we went from a potential 6-way team tie. Last week it was 5 teams. Now Bama has lost, so they've taken themselves out. Texas A&M has lost, and guess who else has lost in the SEC today? Ole Miss. All three teams now have 3 losses. And Ole Miss, I was saying this, man. I had that game circled, starred, and everything against Florida. Florida's a scrappy team. They went out of their way to beat LSU. And they can compete with other teams in the SEC, even though I believe they're 5-5, or they're 5-6 right now. Actually, they might even be that. But Ole Miss had to be careful in this one, because this is one of those games that you can lose so easily without paying close attention. I mean, Florida had a chance to beat Georgia. Did we forget this? Just a few weeks ago, they had that chance, but they just couldn't do it. Now, what happens again? Ole Miss definitely out of contention with 3 losses, and well, they bring Tennessee back in. So it seems like these SEC losses actually really helped Tennessee today. And I'm not exactly sure. Yes, Tennessee actually did play. They played UTEP, Texas El Paso, and they beat them 56-0. So yeah, Tennessee is right back in the conversation now, and I really wonder how these rankings are going to shake up. One of the craziest things about this, though, is watch and wait and see that fans in the SEC will come out and say, oh, but Bama only scoring 3 points to Oklahoma just shows how tough the SEC is. Not the case. Texas A&M losing to Auburn just once again shows why a 3-loss team should be in the playoffs. No 3-loss team should be in the playoffs. For Ole Miss, I don't even know what excuse they're going to give for that. That one I can't wait to hear, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be some form of excuse that they try to give. If Bama, A&M, or Ole Miss end up in the playoffs, that should just be treason. Let's just call it what it is. Now we got to go over to the Big 12, because there were upsets there as well. So in the Big 12, BYU visited Arizona State, and then you lose, which actually helps Colorado, become the first team at the top of the conference, puts Colorado in contention for a Big 12 championship and a potential top 4 spot and a first-round bye, only for Colorado to go on the road to Kansas and lose to Kansas. What a crazy day. So they lose. Let's just be honest. They got dominated after a certain point. They couldn't stop the run. Neal and that quarterback for Kansas, they ran all over Colorado. They did whatever they wanted to do. It was just nonstop. The only other thing I guess I can say about that game is we confirmed who should get the Heisman Award, and it should be Travis Hunter, and it should be nobody else. I don't know. Ashton Genty will get an argument with Boise State, especially with everything that he has done in the rushing game this year. But has anyone in college football this year really done to the level of what Travis Hunter has done? No. If any one of those guys that are voting for the Heisman have a problem with Coach Prime and it's something personal, take that out of the way, because Travis Hunter is probably the best athlete in college football right now. Probably the best football player in college football right now, period. I just don't know if there's anyone that can play on offense and defense and do it to that level every week, not, having the enthusiasm to go out there and still do it, playing almost 1,000 plays on the season. It's crazy what this guy is doing, man. It's crazy what he's doing, and we have to reward that. And if they give that Heisman Award to anyone else except for him, we got to get realistic about what that's really saying about college football. Heisman Award and voting. We got to be serious. So now in the Big 12, what's actually interesting is you have Arizona State and Iowa State at the top of the Big 12, which means if everything stays the way it is next week, those two teams will play for the Big 12 championship, which then also means one of those two teams is guaranteed a top 4 spot, and neither one of them were in the conversation for the playoffs. Now they are. So all they got to do is win out, and it's all good, This week, in all honesty, everybody thought it was going to be a dud. I did not. I had games that I circled. I had some dangerous things that I thought were going to happen, especially with the upset of Florida over Ole Miss, BYU potentially losing. I did not see Colorado losing, nor did I see Bama getting dominated, nor did I see Penn State having to win by 1 point. But all of these things definitely did happen on a weekend that we thought was going to be a dud, But once again, man, this is why we got to play the games. The name of your school, I keep saying this, it's just not enough anymore to get you a pass. NIL has changed everything. I love how the chaos is playing out today. This is not necessarily the chaos I had imagined, but I think this one might be better than the one that I imagined. So I'll accept it. I'll accept it, and we'll keep moving forward. And this is confirmation that it's time for SEC bias to go away. It's confirmation. We got the confirmation today. Anybody can lose on any given week, no matter who it is. Even the bad SEC teams are now beating the good ones. That's why we play the game.